Welcome back to the Light Up Your Life podcast with your host, Samantha.
And I'm Alexa. We're here to light up your life.
Today, we have a very special guest. His name is Ty Cannon. He is a health educator, experienced in anti-aging protocols. He's an author who brings transformative results to the health and wellness industry. So we are very excited to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
So thrilled.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll kick us off. So I know you're making huge contributions to the wellness industry. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Oh God, I guess the short answer is I really try and apply a very holistic approach. One of the things that I've seen, I've owned a lot of health clubs, had a lot of health practitioners working in my places. And, I find a lot of times people throw the word holistic around, but it's like you'll have, I'm not picking on anybody, but like chiropractors, they go, we have a holistic approach. And then they, just do their adjustment and that's it. Diet, people working on dietitians, holistic approach, but then they only focus on the diet. They leave out the mindfulness, the exercise, and these other things in there. So what I really try and do is have a very, really pay tribute to the entire package and try and put it together in a way that people can actually apply it to their lives. Because we get all this information and you're trying to do, mindfulness, you're trying to be educated about your diet, your lifestyle, you're trying to get the exercise in, you're trying to, manage your job and your family and everything at the same time. And it's a lot. So I try and just make that easier for people to do and break it down in a way that's actually doable.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that you are very passionate about what you do. So where did that passion stem from? I know we had a conversation about this. What really got you so enticed into the health and wellness industry?
Well, I got into the health and wellness industry as a byproduct of my martial arts. I started doing martial arts when I was 10 years old, which was my uncle took me to see Enter the Dragon, and I was hooked on Bruce Lee after that. And he got me involved with martial arts. I was having some, struggles as a young kid, and that it was really helpful for me. It really kind of gave me something to center around. As I was training, I realized, I needed to do more. I needed to learn about fitness and these things. And so that's when I started getting into weight training and learning from personal trainers. From that, I got into promoting health clubs. And that went really well. In fact, I ended up, I actually went through like a motivational program, one of Tony Robbins' ones actually. And it really worked for me. I went in less than a year, actually within a few months. I went from not being able to pay my rent, couldn't keep my truck running and, just really struggling with everything to, found myself in Boston promoting health clubs. I was making $1,200 a week, driving a new, Thunderbird, living in a posh Ramada suite, just stuff I didn't even think was possible for me. And that rolled into me owning a Gold's Gym in Huntington Beach. And all this transpired in less than a year.
Wow.
And, that's where I met my wife. And we went back to, we closed out of sold our interest in the Gold's Gym, and I went back to my hometown of Portland, Oregon, and we started a chain of health clubs. And we opened one, a year later we opened another one, a year later we opened another one. We were in the process of taking the company public. We were going to have a whole plan. We were going to have this really cool facility set up in every major city in the country. Tons of money was coming in. I was on top of the world. I just didn't think anything could stop me. I had the business, I had, the awesome wife, 2-year-old son. I was on top of the world. I didn't think anything could stop me. Right. And, the old saying, if you want to make God laugh, make plans. Right. So one day I'm hanging out at my health club, big extended family around me, enjoying my day. And I got a phone call. And on that phone call, my it gets to me every time I bring it up, but I got a phone call and my wife had been rear-ended by 3 cars. And in one moment, my life totally changed. We went from building our dreams and building the company, and to spending all of our time going from doctor to doctor to doctor. It led to a chain of events where, going through this process, ended up losing the clubs, lost everything, started back over from zero, and came to California, where my wife's family was. We had a little bit of support there, and I'm eternally grateful for that. So we came here, and we're just struggling through, trying to figure out how to keep things going, how to get her feeling better and get her life back. And she was started trying to work out again, and she would work out a little bit, and she would gain weight, right? Her had a complete inverse reaction to it. um and you have to understand, she was international karate champion, personal trainer, very inspirational, you know uh fitness motivational person. And it just didn't make any sense. And I would go and tell the doctors, I'd go, hey, there's something wrong with her hormones, right? And coming from my training background, I that's as far as I could go. And the doctors would typically go, well, we're the doctor and you're the trainer, so we know what's best. And condescending as that was, I'd have been fine with it if they gave us something to do, but they didn't. So we're about 5 years into this, and I found a anti-aging doctor, and I told him what I thought, and he said something I'd never heard. He said, "You're exactly right, and
Wow.
here's why." And he started laying out the direct link between traumatic brain injury, the endocrine system, and and gave us some things to do, and they were actually helpful. So then that started me on my quest for going down this road and studying more. And that's where, in this process, is where I met Dr. Delgado. And he had a real open door policy with me, brought me into his office, had me going through the old Nathan Pritikin records. So I was just going through this, learning from him. Uh, that's where I learned how to do the live cell analysis, which I'd never seen that before. And it is just like one of the coolest tools ever for coaching. Uh, and then he had me out, started going out and actually doing speaking events for him. And it's so that's where it's all started.
Yeah.
Wow.
So kind of a long answer for where it started, but that's where it is. And the journey continues. Um,
Absolutely. That was a very, very strong why and compelling. I mean, I can't even imagine being so close and married to someone and then having them have to go through that. But that's incredible that you stuck by her side and you're working together to find solutions to the problems. And so, when you met that anti-aging doctor, what were some of the things that they had your wife do where you both saw results?
well, there's one of the big problems and everybody can relate to this. When we talk to people, so many problems just come back to inflammation in the body. When we were looking at blood under the microscope, you would see those white patches in the dry blood, the oxidative stress, or what people are familiar with, free radical damage. So cleaning up her diet made a big difference. Um, the taking specific supplements that kind of help balance out the hormones a little bit. Cortisol is a really big issue. There's every TBI case I've seen is typically has issues with cortisol, and that's a really important factor in helping to clear that inflammation out. So that would be the first things. There's a lot more to it. This became a really big deal. I wasn't really following these programs of diet and paying attention to my hormones and things. And when I was pushing myself very, very hard, uh when I left the clubs, I started breaking all the rules. I wasn't exercising like I was supposed to. I was breaking every diet rule at least 3 times a day. And what so many people can relate to is, the worst thing of all is, I was stressed out from the time I woke up in the morning until I went to bed. It just never stopped. And I kept pushing this and pushing this. until I had a stroke.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So here I find myself, with young son, disabled wife, and, trying to figure out how to, move things forward. And when I share this story to groups, I always tell people, if you get nothing else out of what I'm saying, focus in on this. You have to make your health your number one priority. We've all heard how charity starts at home. Well, that means it starts here. You have to take care of yourself, because as soon as that breaks, there's nothing more you can do. And so that was a really, really big wake up call for me. And so when I'm coaching people and I'm looking at their blood under the microscope, and which spurs a very intimate conversation with a client, that tool is so good at really helping people focus in on that. And then also understanding why things are happening. Because when you don't really understand why, it's really hard to make the right adjustments.
Mhm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's so important to take care of your own health, and you can't pour from an empty cup. So it's absolutely
Can't.
vital.
Yeah.
As
And,
well.
I appreciate, the things that you're doing about working with people on mindfulness, talking about how to break your goals down into, simple, actionable steps, the little things that you can do. People are always looking for like this one big thing they can do that's going to change everything. Not a thing. It's
Right.
just not. It's doing 100 little things consistently, and that's a big key.
And I know you mentioned diet quite a bit in there, cleaning up of the diet, and
Huge.
there's so many fad diets out there, and so many nutritionists or even other health and
Mhm.
wellness experts that advocate for one diet or the other, right? We have the keto. I mean, just so many
Mhm.
that are.
Mhm.
So when you talk about cleaning up your diet, is there a specific diet that you recommend? What is, by your recommendation, the best diet?
So, there's so many people out there throwing out, like you said, all these fad diets, different ideas. And I get hit all the time with people going, well, how do you know? How do you know what's right? Everybody's saying, do this or do that one. And, there's what you need to do is we need to break things down. And first off is, what do we know from actual peer-reviewed medical literature? Not what you read in Muscle and Fitness, not what your, calorically challenged neighbor was sharing with you, but what's actually reviewed and peer-reviewed things. Now, that alone can be a little bit misleading because you don't always know where the studies came from. But this is a really good, solid point. You need to actually know the science behind what's going on, too. What do we know from cultural comparisons, right? And when we look at the cultures that have had shown the lowest rates of cancer, the lowest rates of heart attack, the best levels of longevity, when they're in their older years, still have their eyes are clear, their mind is sharp, they still have that vitality. Uh, that's we need to look at that. And that diet, by the way, is the traditional Japanese diet, which is primarily a plant-based diet. People often think, oh, it had tons of fish in it, had very little fish in it. And some, not much. Um, and then the last thing is, what have you seen with your own eyes? What have you done listening to your own body? And when we put this information together, it keeps coming back to the plant-based diet. Now, a lot of times people are probably listening and getting nervous, go, this guy's going to tell me I have to be vegan, right? um, Vegan diet can be very, very healthy if it's done correctly. You can mess that one up too. What we going back to being at Dr. Nick's office and going through the old Pritikin records, he did extensive research on this. And what he found is the human body can deal with about 100 milligrams of cholesterol a day, right? So that would be like a piece of about the size of a deck of cards of chicken, steak, something like that. Anything more than that, uh, that excess cholesterol, we know that cholesterol is really bad for your arteries and it creates plaque and increases, heart attack, stroke risk, and those things. It does a lot more than that. It starts coating the cells, and you got to see that, what it looks like in there. And you know, there was a lot of really unhealthy people at that event we were at. And what I was seeing a lot of was the cells were like sticking together. And that happens because that oil makes the cells sticky.
Mhm.
That prevents them from flowing through the capillaries. When a cell goes through the capillary, it rubs up against the edge, and that's when it does its oxygen carbon dioxide exchange, right? So when you're not getting that good exchange, it's going to leave you feeling lethargic, brain fog, all these types of things. So the other thing that excess fat does is it blocks the receptor sites. So you have on the outside of the cell, there's all these little receptor sites, and then chemical signals like insulin will go down and they dock with that receptor site. And then when they do that, it gives the cell information. And in the case of insulin, telling it to take in glucose for energy. But if that's all blocked up, that it can't get in there to give the cell the signal. Now, this has to do with all the different chemical signals, your hormones, your testosterone, estrogens, all these types of things. In the case of insulin, what I just explained is the number one cause of type 2 diabetes in the country. And most doctors will not explain it like this at all. They tell you, oh, the answer is we just have to cut down your carbs and everything else. Not true. In fact, you can eat carbohydrates, you can have the fruits and all these other things in your diet, and your body will handle it just fine if those receptor sites are open. So lowering those excess levels of fat is critical for all that type of signaling, and then you have more energy, your immune system functions better, your brain is sharp. So yeah, plant-based diet was the answer.
That's incredible that you gave that explanation. And so, working with Dr. Delgado, I know you've really heavily focused on the anti-aging protocol. So, we all want to look younger and more youthful. So, for our listeners, what is maybe the top 3 things that you would recommend our listeners to look more youthful, to feel more energetic when they're working with you?
So the first thing that I ask when someone comes in my office and sits down with me, how are you sleeping?
Yes, you did ask me that.
Yep. Bottom line, if you are not sleeping, your body is not repairing. When you're working out, people think, oh, I'm lifting weights and I'm building muscle right now. No, you're not. You're tearing muscle down. When you sleep, that's when the repair happens. That's when the growth and the development, the toning and all that stuff actually takes place. So getting a good night of sleep, that's huge. So, and as you know, I talk about that a lot. So there's a ton of things that we do that support that cycle. We cleaning up your diet, removing the inflammatory foods, processed sugars, of course, excess fat in the diet, making sure you're getting in, getting your greens, your vegetables, fruit is fine. I know there's a lot of trainers and coaches out there that don't like fruit. They're just wrong.
I agree.
They're just wrong.
I agree.
And the next thing I would do is, we get that, make sure you're getting exercise at least 21 minutes a day. Bring your heart rate up to 130 beats a minute for 21 minutes. There seems to be some kind of magic number right there. Okay. And then the last one, and very important, is, knowing where you're at. So getting labs done, running a hormone panel, food allergy test. Most people have some level of delayed food allergy. So this, very inflammatory. So getting those labs done so you can make really good fine-tuning decisions. And the other thing, it's like I tell people, we'll get a hormone panel and they'll go, well, I feel pretty good. Get yourself in the best shape you can get to, and then get that panel done. Get one done there, because if you're like maybe 20, 30 years down the road and you are dealing with, an accident, a cancer, some other disease, we want to restore your body to its optimal state of health. And every panel is going to have your optimal ranges are not going to be the same as my optimal ranges. When we look at those panels, they'll tell you if your levels are high or low, but that's based on an average of an unhealthy population. So it doesn't necessarily, speak to where we're at as well as people think it does.
So it's good to have a baseline of where you were when you were in top peak performance.
Absolutely.
That's a great point.
Is there a decline as you age, right? So is there, can you continue to have those same types of lab results in your 30s versus later on in your life in your 50s? Or, is the expectation that we do decline in some sort of way?
Well, hormones do decline as we age. Dr. Harry Hertog, I met at A4M. He had a saying. He said, "People, we don't age because hormones decline, or how was it? We don't hormones don't decline as we age. We age because hormones decline." Right. So that's the different philosophy. When you go into like a regular MD, they're going to run your labs and they're going to, if you're in your 40s, 50s, and they look at this and they go, yeah, this is kind of in the lower ranges. But for your age, that's pretty normal. And they just send you on the way. Somebody that studies the anti-aging sciences are going to look at, when you were 28 years old, this is where your hormones were in their optimal range. Let's get you back there.
I love that
So
idea.
that's the way, we look at it from the anti-aging perspective.
Very.
So something else about aging too, there's a lot of people believe that, they can't, man, I see people, they're 35 years old and they're making noise like old people when they get out of the chair, right? I'm turning 61 this month. I train my martial arts every day. I'm very, very active. I'm sparring 2, 3 times a week with people half my age, twice my size. I feel great. I wake up in the morning. I don't need to stretch. I could jump. I could go from waking up in the morning to a dead sprint and not hurt myself.
Wow.
I don't have pain. I mean, sometimes I do because every once in a while I don't, I bob when I should have weaved, and you catch something. So, but normally, it's my normal day-to-day life. I feel good. And we look at other cultures. There's people 70 years old that are in great shape doing all kinds of crazy physical things. We just accept here that you're just supposed to be old and lazy.
Mhm.
And that's just not a thing.
Yeah.
I begrudgingly admit that we do lose some speed and some strength as we age. However, there are things that our tactile sensitivity increases. The older you get, your ability to feel things increases. So fine motor skill, depending on what type of a sport or activity you like to do, and a lot of your martial arts, things like Tai Chi, Wing Chun, those things are all based on sensitivity and to be able to feel things. So you can still increase as you age. That's how you see these videos of these old masters that are just doing crazy thing. They're like 90 years old and still like throwing everybody around.
Yeah,
So,
that's really.
play to your strength.
Yeah, that's true. And, I look at my grandfather who's 82 years old and he's traveling the world and he's golfing every single day. So to your point, I feel like so many doctors today will say, "Oh, you're 60 years old. This is normal." And it's not
Yeah.
to be sick. It's not normal for us to have all of this inflammation and feel tired all the time. It's really not. So I love
Mhm.
you are advocating for people to get in their best shape, to eat the best that they can, and to impose meditation and mindfulness and different practices to feel your best. And
Mhm.
so you've written a few books, and I really want to move towards the one that it's called Why Everything Your Trainer Ever Told You Is Wrong. So can you give, we were really intrigued by that title name and what it actually means.
So this is a direct result of spending time with Dr. Delgado. And as I'm studying the literature, learning from Nick, uh, so much of what is in our medical literature that is taught today is wrong. And there's medical literature that supports what these changes and ideas, but it hasn't caught up to the textbooks yet. So we talk about I'm sure you hear a lot of stuff about protein, how much protein you need. Oh, you just got done working out, you need protein. And there's things you commonly will read things that you need like a gram per pound of body weight, if you're trying to build muscle. This is all BS. This is all based on a study called the PER, the protein efficiency ratio. So back in the early 1900s, they took and put rats in cages, and they fed one, one rat rice, and they found another one beans, and another one meat, and they all these different foods, and they tracked their growth. So this is an animal that has a life expectancy of about 2 years, grows to full adulthood within 6 months, and then they use this as the guideline for the protein requirements for a human being. And this still has not changed in textbooks.
One study.
And it's wrong. Yeah. Yeah. It was paid for by the Dairy Commission, by the way. But
Who would have thought?
who would have thought? Yeah. But yeah, it's wrong. And so Dr. Delgado was I believe he's still the world record holder for strength and endurance. He does this crazy exercise where he curls and presses a dumbbell overhead and down, and he does this back and forth. And the competition is who can lift the most accumulated weight in an hour, nonstop for an hour. He pyramids up to 45-pound dumbbells doing this. It's crazy.
And he's older as well, right?
Yeah, he's old. Yeah, he's turning 69 in January.
Yeah, he's in incredible shape. He's actually going to be on our podcast.
Yeah, very, very, very strong. So yeah. So and I paid attention to how much protein he was taking in. And because he was always saying, we only need about 30 to 40 grams of protein per day, right? And that's true for most people. He's performing at like a professional athlete level there. So I was really watching how much is he actually doing. And I'm around him all day long, so I'm really watching it. And he would get up to about 50, maybe 60 grams on some days, which is still way less than what they're telling you to do. I've seen people in the gyms taking in as much as 2 grams per pound of body weight. I mean, that's crazy. When you wake up in the morning, I remember back when I owned my clubs in Oregon, and this was in my 30s, I would wake up in the morning and it hurt. Like my first few steps on the way to the bathroom were painful.
Oh gosh.
And then by the time I would get done taking my shower and stuff, I'm, fine. I felt good after that, but I still had that stiffness, that inflammation going all the time. When I cut the protein down, gone.
Really?
Just
And so
gone.
what kind of protein would you recommend?
Can you help us
Plant-based.
debate?
Oh yeah.
Because
Plant-based proteins. You can, if you insist, you can still do like the lean steak, the lean, really lean cuts of meat. Don't get nothing that you order through a clown's head in a drive-through. Yeah, that's not good sources of protein.
get it for a while. It took me a little bit of time to get there, but okay.
So yeah, no fast food.
Yeah, absolutely not. No.
But
but plant-based proteins are actually easier for your body to break down. It's a lot of work for your body to process meat.
And how do you feel about eggs?
I eat the egg whites. I don't eat the yolks. There's 230 milligrams of cholesterol in an egg yolk. That's a lot. There's people that like to debate this because there are some very healthy things in the egg yolk. Folic acid comes up a lot, and we definitely need folic acid, but there's other sources. So I just don't feel like the trade-off is there. So I'll make up like an egg white, omelet, which is really, and when I cook it up, it's like the egg whites are pretty much just a binder for all the other, peppers and onions and mushrooms and stuff I throw in there.
So I follow the medical medium, and he talks a lot about how eggs are not good for you because they feed a lot of viruses. And I found specifically for me, so my mother has MS, and I started feeling tingly in my legs, and I was eating eggs all the time. And then I, doing more of a plant-based diet, following the medical medium diet, and I got rid of eggs, and I felt like my tingliness went away. And so I feel like, there's so much out there that says eggs are so healthy for you. They're a great protein But for me and what I've researched and what I've learned, I've definitely noticed the opposite.
And that could be for a few reasons. I don't want to eat anything that came from a factory farm. There's just a lot of really creepy stuff there. Um, I mean, it's just not good. I mean, and for ourselves, I mean, we just don't want to be taking that into our body, the chemicals, the hormones, and all the stuff involved with it. And I always tell people, they ask me, about, my diet, and it's like I tell people I'm not an ethical vegan. I come at it from a health sciences perspective. Now that's, I kind of am an ethical vegan, though. I mean, I spent 3 years over the, when we were all, checking out from the plague. I just went out and hung out on an animal rescue farm and was going out and rescuing animals and taking them back, and spent a lot of time with all these animals. So it's when you're around that and the people that support that, you're really getting a much deeper understanding of the industry it comes from. It's like, yeah, don't eat that stuff. It's not okay.
Yeah. And I know biohacking has been a huge trend in the social media forums, and just kind of seems like, eating healthy and having this, everybody's starting their own wellness journey. So biohacking has been huge. It's been a huge trend, and people are doing all sorts of new things, fasting, and doing cold plunges, any of those things that you incorporate into your wellness lifestyle, or any of those things that you would recommend.
All of that stuff, the biohacking, some of these phrases I entertain me, because it's kind of, and I'm all for it. I think this is great. And if it, things that help promote it, absolutely use them. Part of the biohacking is eating superfoods. My grandmother called superfood growing up food.
Yeah.
Food, because the idea of putting poison all over your food wasn't a thing. Like,
Right.
why would you do that? But factory, commercial farming and stuff has just really changed things so much. So big benefit and using organic foods. And I'm seeing more and more organic choices as I go into the stores. And we blame the stores and the industry and everything going on in society for doing these things, but it's our dollar that's going to make the change. When more and more people are buying more organic things, that section is going to keep growing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the cold plunges, and that's kind of interesting, because I started doing a practice in the mornings. And I got to tell you, man, I am the biggest baby when it comes to cold. In fact, right now, I mean, I feel like it's really cold here right now. So, but but I've read the research on this stuff, and there's just so much supporting all the benefits of cold therapy. And I was standing in the shower one day and I'm thinking, yeah, one of these days I'm going to do it. One of these days I'm going to do it. And I finally just reach over and I go, ah, today is the day. And I just went from the hottest shower to just as cold as I could get it. And man, I'm shaking and cussing and swearing. Oh man, right? Maybe I make it a minute, maybe. Okay. Shut the water off. And then about 15 seconds later, I just started laughing my ass off. I got hit with this huge endorphin rush. And that experience right there, I went, oh my God, whatever this is, it just happened. I've been doing it every day since.
Yeah. It
So
work. I do cryotherapy. Have you ever
that
tried
was
that?
very cool.
Yeah, it goes down to negative 240 degrees. And there's been so much research that says that it helps with muscle repair and also reduces inflammation. So it's been key. And it also helps to build your body's serotonin and dopamine. So all good things, but it's not fun at all.
And I find it a lot.
I feel great when I do this process in the mornings. It really do. I have a different just take on how I'm starting my day. I highly recommend it. I go from, and there's a lot of research on like just doing cold showers in the morning, which is enough. I go from hot to cold because I also have like kind of my, my martial art lifestyle is uh, I'm rewiring my shock response in my body. So it's like I do like mindfulness meditation and things like that. I will do it as I'm transitioning that. And that's one of the things when I do talk about my classes and I'm teaching like my martial yoga and these things, it's real easy to go to your nice yoga studio and you sit down, you're doing your mindfulness practice there. We're doing a meditation, the incense is there, the lighting's perfect. Everybody's in a really good frame of mind. You have somebody leading the meditation with a really soothing voice. And do this stuff. It's important to do this. But it is very easy to do it there. But then when you go out and you're dealing with your family stress, your crazy boss, whatever else, life stress, it's like learning how to, like what I teach people like from martial arts. Martial arts, I use it in a lot of motivational coaching because I'm teaching you how to handle pressure. It's not about fighting, it's about handling pressure and learning how to be the calm in the eye of the storm. What kind of activities can you do to take your most zen state, and then like when that you go from hot to cold and it doesn't affect your breath, you can breathe calm, you can keep your mind focused and relaxed, and it's a skill that stays with you for the rest of the day.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Tony Robbins talks a lot about that too, your emotional state. And,
it's
a lot of
huge.
things might happen to you, but it's your reaction to what happened. So it's so important to have that emotional intelligence. Right?
Mhm.
And I know one of the things that you spoke about that's so critical to your overall well-being is getting a good night's rest. And I know you have a supplement that
I
is
do.
benefiting that. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So that supplement came, it started back when I had my clubs in Oregon.
Okay.
And back then it was just based on only using just we were just focused on muscle recovery, injury recovery. So if you came in, you're signing up at the gym, you had a car accident 6 months ago or whatever, you're trying to recover from that, or maybe you're overtraining, whatever. So just for muscle recovery, soft tissue repair, worked phenomenal for that. So when we left the club, that just kind of got backburnered, right? So I've had this formula for a very, very long time. When studying with Nick and a lot of the doctors and researchers that I met through Nick, I was studying a lot about nitric oxide. So nitric oxide is a molecule that's produced in the endothelial lining of your arteries. Okay. And it's responsible for your heart, circulation, memory, bone density. It protects against certain cancers. And the list just keeps going on and on and on. It also plays a critical role in proper sleep function, that fourth stage of sleep where you start dreaming. That's where your brain reorganizes. Uh, so you're dealing with your mental cognition, your memory, mood. So very, very important part of that. So I added that in with that base formula for the muscle recovery. And then working with Dr. Caraba, he actually shared with me about how to use amino acids and combining them with methyl donors. So simply put, like your B complexes, things like that, actually causes your body to produce melatonin naturally. And it does that. It produces serotonin, and from serotonin, then melatonin. So when you have that, now your body is using the melatonin on demand, right? So many health practitioners, when people have health issues, and they just put people on melatonin right away. And it's your body's not really meant to just have it all shotgun into your system all at once. And a big concern I have is like, say for instance, if you have low cortisol and you give them melatonin, you can throw that person into chronic fatigue really easily. So I just don't think it should be a main go-to. But when you produce it naturally, your body just stores it and just uses it as you go through the night. The melatonin actually regulates your sleep cycles through the night, which you should be getting 4 to 5 throughout the course of the night. The producing of the serotonin actually helps people with, like PTSD, things like that. Uh, People with that really like it. They, in conjunction with their doctor, so I'm not telling people to end run that. So I want to be clear. But people with, mood, anxiety, depression, those types of things, it's really helpful with that, which I also think is not just from your body naturally boosting the serotonin, but a byproduct of just getting more sleep in general. It's like I tell people, it's like, I don't care what your goals are. You want to go make $1 million. You want to have like that amazing, connected, intimate relationship. You want to go win Olympic gold. It doesn't matter if you're not getting enough sleep. When you're tired, you're just not feeling it. You're on your wits' end. Try and be there and present for whoever your significant other is. It's not going to happen. Right. And then we're not able to bring our A game to whatever our situation is. And then we go, oh, why didn't I go to that meeting? Why didn't I do my phone calls today? And it's like, what's wrong with me? And then we get into this all self-deprecating, self-talk, and we just start cascading this issue. And, it's all unnecessary.
Yeah, sleep is so imperative. We actually did a podcast episode that talks about a good night's sleep and all of the benefits it does have. And so I want to switch gears to, well, before I do that, I do want to say we've been trying your supplement. I've had the most vivid dreams I've had in so long. So I definitely notice a big difference in my sleep and getting those sleep cycles in. Like you said, we need 4 to
Good,
5.
I'm glad.
So yeah, it's definitely helping. And I love that it has blueberry extract in it. So
Yeah, I got some flack from that from my lab. Yeah, because they said nobody flavors things like this because it's very expensive. But the antioxidant value was so high that I used that. And I just didn't want to put artificial things in it. You mentioned something to me before about you were doing some mindfulness in conjunction with this. And that was really interesting to me when you said that, because I'm getting reports from people and in my own experience too, that like going into like your meditative states, like if you do this before you meditate, it's really helpful.
it is. I've
It's
noticed.
really helpful. It really helps you just kind of drop into that state. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting when you brought that up.
Yeah, I've been practicing the Silva Mind technique and then in conjunction to taking the supplement. So it's working really well. But I also previously had a conversation and this really melted my heart because, my brother went through addiction and rehab. And I know you're
Yeah.
huge working with people and rehab facilities and helping to change their mindset, helping to change their life. And you shared a really incredible story with me. So for our listeners, can you share that with them?
So I was asked to go and teach a fitness class at this sober living home, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll go teach these guys some fitness. That was not even on the table to go in there and teach. I mean, first off, the room and the facility was not conducive to doing this. These people are all so lethargic. You can tell, man, they're not able to really focus in on what anybody's saying. They didn't want to be there. And the doctor was actually gave me a lot of latitude. I go, let me do a few things here. So first thing that I did was I set up a session before the session. And we would go into their kitchen and we would get the blenders and we would blend up drinks. Huge on blending your drinks. And we'd throw the sweet potatoes and the fruit and the greens and all these different things in there and a couple supplements that I'm a big fan of. And you would watch, like 30 minutes later, they're sitting up straight and they're able to listen. And so went through that. And then I started doing some of the motivational speaking that I do. And it was interesting. I go around the room, everybody's introducing themselves, and everybody warned me about this one guy there. And he said that he goes, yeah, my name is, we'll say Ben. And I don't want to, give anybody's name since it's where it's from. And he goes, I've been doing this. He goes, this is my third home I've been in. It's not going to be my last, and it doesn't matter what you say. I went, all right, okay, I can accept that. Just go ahead and listen along anyway, and we'll just see. All right. He ended up being my best helper. I mean, he actually was like started motivating everybody else there. He got in great shape. He ended up being training people in my club. and he's still doing great. And when I went back, I was kind of tracking what was going on there. If people that aren't familiar with the addiction industry, the success rate is about 2%. It's horrible. And that was about what they were doing for their completion rate there, for the people that would funnel through. For my group that was gravitating towards me in there, the completion rate went up about 500%.
Wow.
And I still can, see what a lot of these people are doing, and they're doing great. Still sober, still doing good. And the guy that I mentioned, Ben, he came to me and he goes, you know what the real difference was for me? Is he goes, everybody else, that talked, I never really believed I could do it. And he goes, you made it feel like it's possible. And what I'd like to, I'll share with everybody, because this is really relevant. When we hear about addiction, people talk about it and they're telling people, well, this is how you're going to be forever. You have this disease. It's this big burden you're going to carry on your back. And if you work really, really hard, you'll be up here like the normies, right? That's what people in addiction call, us. And, for them, the normies, their highs aren't real high, their lows aren't really low, and they just plug along in their little mundane life, right? And at some point, there's a really good chance that you're going to fall off the wagon and go through all this shit again. And this is what people are taught when they're going through there. It sounds like a really crappy ride. And I would show them this PowerPoint that I had, and there's a picture of a girl on this English jumping horse. Beautiful picture. You could do any motivational caption you want to do this. Perfect picture for it, right? And then the next slide is a guy in a rodeo. He's fallen off the horse. His boot is stuck in the stirrup while this horse is bucking. It was a bad photo. I don't know if the guy lived through it or not. It was not good, right? And I said, and the horse's name is addiction. And the fact of the matter is, the people, those of us with an addictive personality we are either up here on top of the world, we are experiencing health, wealth, and prosperity, we are killing it, we are living our highest passion, or it will kill you. And there's nothing in between. We don't have that. But when you make that awareness, you can turn that addictive personality into a superpower. You need to manage it. You keep in mind that every Olympic athlete, every billionaire, every rock star, every famous actor, politician, anybody experiencing those extreme levels of success has an addictive personality. I will guarantee it. And when you frame it differently, it gives you a level of hope and perspective that you didn't have before.
Wow, that really resonated with me too, because I definitely know of, people in my family that also have that addicted personality. And I've seen it go from a really unhealthy habit to, something that is much more common, like exercising or getting really obsessive with something that is more healthy. So, but that never goes away. You don't just go from being addicted to something like drugs and alcohol to then not having addiction at all. It seems to be jumping to something else. And sometimes you have it, and that's great.
Yeah, it's funny. People say, well, you're just trading one addiction for another. It's like, yeah. Exactly. It's like, I told them once, I usually don't run down my resume on things, but it's like, I have first degree black belt in Arjun karate. I have 2 black belts in Arnis, second degree black belts. I have a 4th degree black belt in Taekwondo. I'm a level 4 instructor of Jeet Kune Do under one of Bruce Lee's core students, Steve Golden. I am also qualified to teach Wing Chun, Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian, Japanese, and probably some systems I'm forgetting. Do you
Wow.
think I have an addictive personality? Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's what you fuel your addiction towards, right? And if you have a strong why, and for you, you're helping to change lives, that's huge. And I'm sure it just always inspires you every single day to wake up and use your addictive personality for good. So
Yeah, and thank you. It's and keeping in mind, it's not just the motivational side of it. Again, this holistic thing. We need this part. There's biochemical things going on too. There is a direct link between diet and addiction. There is your hormones. If your cortisol levels are low, your body, like say for instance, and low cortisol, super common. And say for instance, cortisol plays a role in helping to drive free fatty acids into the cell. So, and it gives you that satisfied feeling when you eat, right? That's how I feel I've had enough. And when that's low and you don't get that response, and you're sitting there one night and you're eating your chips and your whatever else that you shouldn't be eating, and you're eating and eating, and you go, oh God, I shouldn't be eating this, but I'm going to keep eating and eating, and you're going to keep eating until you give your body an actual stress response, and you get that stress response. It forces the release of the cortisol, and you feel satisfied. And then you look over at your pile of wrappers there and go, oh God, what's wrong with me? Why do I do this? I have no willpower. And you get into this whole self-deprecating loop. Had nothing to do with willpower. You were self-medicating a chemical imbalance in your body. So, and when we start understanding these cycles here, and we start running it down, and we adjust, get that hormone panel ran, do the things that help support those hormone levels, sleep being one of them. That makes a really big difference. So, people commonly say, I'll ask people, do you have any aches, pains, or fatigue issues, right? And I swear I hear this on a regular basis. They go, just the normal amount. There is no normal amount. There isn't. When and I come back to sleep a lot because it affects everything. But I will ask a room full of people, and I'll go, all right, how many people in this room sleep good, right? Typically half the hands go up. I go, great. Now leave your hand up, and leave your hand up only if when you wake up in the morning, you don't have to hit the snooze alarm. You are completely and totally wide awake from the time you make it from your bed to the bathroom. You have no need for coffee or stimulants, and you're ready to start your day. And it's like all the hands go down except for usually two hippies in the back of the room.
I know it is a huge epidemic now, not getting enough sleep and not treating your body the way you should. And we both love your holistic approach to, the whole person, not just your diet or not just exercising. It's encompassing everything. So
yeah. And one other thing I'd say about the holistic approach too is I've really learned over the years of working with people, the information, good or not, it stands where it's at. You have to work with people from where they're at. Telling people to follow, here's what I do every day and here's my routine. Not everybody's going to be able to do that. Right. And it's not relevant to them. So we got to look at, and I tell people, just be honest with me, because I'm going to tell you everything you should do. And now but I want you to let me know, what will you do? And without judgment, because that's not my role. Right. And what you'll find is there's generally one area that we can do something, going back to what you said about having small actionable things, right? Super important. So, we'll find that one thing. And oftentimes it's just, look, let's blend a drink once a day, right? And, and then if we can get you sleeping a little better, blend a drink. And then from there, you're going to start feeling a little better. And what do we want when we get something that feels good? We want more, right? So kind of helpful if you have an addictive personality. So you can start flipping that script for people. And by the way, most all of us are affected with some level of addiction. Most addictions start from chemical. It's a chemical addiction to our own emotional state.
yes, it's so true. Tony Robbins talks a lot about that. But
Yeah, it's totally true.
Lee, thank you so much for coming on the episode today. We've learned a tremendous amount. We can't wait to implement all of that. So do you have a website? We also know you have an Instagram that our followers can go ahead and, find out more information about you.
TyCannon.com is my website, and rejuvenate.bio is the site for my sleep product.
Supplement.
And thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed sharing with you.
Yeah, this is amazing. Thank you so much for being with us today.
You're very welcome.
We're sending our listeners so much love and light. And if you found value from this podcast, please like and share with anyone. Thank you.